Okay, everybody. Well, thank you so much for coming in today, joining me. And whether you're listening to this recording or you're here live, I really appreciate it. And there's so many things that I want to talk about. And this is a platform that I feel like we can delve in and dive into deeper into different topics that I'd like you to know about. I'd like you to, and my intention and my desire is that it stimulates curiosity in you to further learn. And there's lots of resources. So my goal is to keep very complex concepts and information as simple as possible because we're very busy with the lives that we lead. And we want to be able to apply these principles without learning all the science behind it. But if you desire to learn more, there's a lot of information, lots of amazing books, and deeper webinars that you can get into if you want to discover that. So basically, today I want to talk about circadian rhythm and metabolic health. A lot of us are really interested, like a lot of my clients are like, what do I eat? Give me a meal plan. Um, I, you know, I just I don't want to hear about managing my stress. I don't want to hear about getting enough sleep. I just want to know what to eat. And I wish it was that simple. I wish if you dialed in the perfect diet that you would get all the desired results that you are looking for, such as release body fat, let go of any excess body fat, build muscle, have more energy. But unfortunately, it's multi-layered and there's different fundamentals of health. So circadian rhythm and what it has to do with metabolic health, fundamental daily habits, what to eat and when, prioritizing protein and sources. So I'm going to give you tips. What are the best sources of protein and how much? Meal ideas for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, overcoming common obstacles, and just recapping everything. So without getting more into it, I'm going to share my screen. And just so to keep me on track and to give you something to look at. Um, let's see. Oh, I always get confused here. I want to do slideshow. Okay, so here we go. What to eat. Let's start with what to eat and when. This is a big question, right? And I have to tell you that I have done a little bit of a shift on my recommendations that maybe some of my clients that I've worked with, in the past 10 years, they may say, Sheila, you told me 4 years ago that I should be intermittent fasting, and then it might be a good idea to skip breakfast. And you're right. I did, and I talk about intermittent fasting still. Number one, what is intermittent fasting? Intermittent fasting is when we have a period of time that we're fasting and we're not eating, and a period of time that we're eating. So we have what we call a fasting window and we have an eating window. All intermittent fasting is talking about, or what it alludes to, is that talking about the time of our fast. How much time are we fasting and how much time are we eating? So I do still believe that sometimes, we do want to fast for at least 12 hours. So that means that we stop eating at a certain time at night and then we can eat 12 hours later the next day. Sometimes that's 14 hours or 16 hours, depending on when we stopped eating the night before. But what my shift in recommendation is that if possible, we're going to move that eating window closer to the circadian rhythm, closer to the natural rhythms of the sun and what our bodies want to be aligned with. Okay. So we want to be aligned with the timing of sunrise and sunset. So wouldn't it make sense that our metabolic system actually performs better and hormones are more optimal, okay, for fat burning? So I'm going to talk about two hormones, insulin and leptin. Insulin is a hormone that gets released by the pancreas so that it can control blood sugar. When we excessively alert insulin to come out and do its job, and we have an excess of insulin, we store body fat. Okay. Insulin is a fat storage hormone. Leptin is a hormone that's released in response to the fat in our body and our hunger signals, our satiation. Okay. It's also a fat burning hormone. So when we have insulin and leptin we're not sensitive to those hormones, where it's like our bodies aren't sensitive to to the job that it's supposed to do, because we love insulin, we love leptin, we want it in the right balance. But when these hormones are out of balance, then we have some issues. We may be hungry all the time, or we may not be hungry at all or be sensitive to when we're supposed to eat. Insulin, like I said, excessive insulin resistance can come even if we're not eating an excess amount of carbohydrates. It can come from stress. So guess what happens when we don't sleep well? Our blood sugar is actually elevated even when we didn't eat. If we get agitated, if you're taking your blood sugar and you just had an argument with a loved one and you didn't even eat anything, your blood sugar may spike. Okay, so it's in response to the cortisol hormone, and it gets a little bit, I don't want to get complicated, but when we eat with the rhythm of the natural circadian rhythm, then our hormones are going to be optimized. So we want to align our eating habits with the sun for better metabolism and better energy. So wouldn't it make sense that we're going to eat our biggest meal closer to when the sun comes up? Then as the day goes on, when our systems naturally start to go into slower mode, we're going to eat less. So I realize, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, well, in a couple minutes, we're going to talk about some obstacles that you may face, and I'm going to show you, you can negate some of these things. Don't feel like you have to be perfect. I'm just going to give you the optimal, okay? But we do live in a world and we have jobs and we have families, so we want to do the best we can without getting stressed out, okay? So optimally, we're going to get up early, right before sunrise. So sunrise might differ depending on where you live. So there is an app called My Circadian, and it's an awesome app. It's a new app. I recommended another app just a week ago, but this one actually you can plug in where you live, as well as the other app. That is also true, the other app, but this is giving you a little bit more information, and there's some fantastic um, articles and informative videos and resources on the app. That's even if you just get the free app, but that'll tell you exactly when sunrise is. Now that may not be possible, but let's just say it is. Let's live in a perfect world right now. Today's sunrise was at 7:03. So when I wake up, which was around 6:30, I do try to minimize any artificial light until I'm able to get outside when the sun rises. The reason for that is because we want our clocks, our inner clocks, to be connected with the natural rhythm of the sun. So I put on my blue blockers, actually, and then I just keep it dim, and I keep my phone screen on my red. I eliminate the blue and green light and then go downstairs. Anyway, I take my coffee outside. So when the sun's rising, I actually can't see the sun break the horizon in my backyard, but I could see the sun as it comes up, and it doesn't even matter. The light is coming, okay, in the air. So I set my eyes. I might be out there for 3 minutes. I might be out there for 10. It really depends on what I have to do and how cold it is. Then an hour, as we talked about in last week, an hour in after sunrises, we have UVA rise. So UVA rise is identified on my circadian app, and that's about an hour after sunrise. And that's when I do, like, bundle up because it's cold in New Jersey right now. You may live in better weather, where I go outside for a walk, or I'll go out in the backyard and I'll do some grounding. Even if it's cold, I do take my socks off and I'll put my feet on the ground. We'll get into that in another session, but there's some amazing benefits to grounding and pretty much charging yourself like a cell phone. Like you charge your cell phone, you're charging yourself with the earth. And then I go about my day. So now then I go in, and after that first sunrise, in between that and UVA rise, I try to eat. Does it happen all the time? No. Sometimes it happens 2 hours after sunrise. But what do I eat when I first get my meal? I do try to make that first meal a little bit bigger. And then my later meals, if I do eat anything for lunch, it's going to be something small, a small amount of protein. And then if I have dinner, that's going to be not too big. And it's going to be about 4 or 5 o'clock, like around sunset. So, okay, so we talked about the alignment with the sun, optimal metabolic function, and the key hormones are insulin and leptin. Okay. So we talked about sunrise, 20 minutes outside, grounding if you can with the UVA rise, avoiding artificial light, After sunset, okay, this is another big thing. This is going to set you up for burning fat optimally and for setting up your good night's sleep. Remember, when you don't sleep well, you're not recovering and your hormones are going to be imbalanced. And you're setting yourself up for storing body fat. So again, like, do we need exercise? Do we need to watch our macronutrients? Do we need to prioritize protein? The answer is yes. But if we don't get that fundamental habit of, you know, creating ourselves to set ourselves up to have the best night's sleep we can and to manage our stress, then it's going to be, you're going to be working against the tide at night. So like I said, avoid the blue light. So right now I have a blue light on, to illuminate myself on this Zoom call. Um, if I'm spending hours on the computer, I will wear the yellow tinted blue blockers. I'll have some product recommendations for you down the line. So stay tuned, or I can, if you want to individually reach out to me. But the yellow blue blockers will take the stress off my eyes from the flicker. And then at night, I'll put the amber colored blue blockers on and then I also will shut lights off and I'll dim lights. And if you can have some red lights or amber lights, that's great. But it just really is going to optimize my sleep. And again, this is setting you up for your metabolic powerhouse. So when to eat and what? Okay. So like I said, if you get up with sunrise, okay, optimally, you're going to eat about an hour after you wake up, within an hour. And that is new information, you guys. I know. Wait, Chili, you told me to skip breakfast and have lunch. I know. I did the same thing. In fact, I'm retraining. This is a process of learning and unlearning. Okay. Sometimes we have to unlearn things. And honestly, I love to fast because it's just easy. So often in the morning, I'd be super busy with whether personal or work responsibilities. And it was just so easy just to have my coffee and drink my water and not eat until about 12 or 1. And then I would have like lunch and then I'd have dinner around 6 or 7. And listen, that may work in some scenarios, but I can tell you that since I've been shifting my schedule, my improvement in sleep has increased pretty dramatically. I wear an Oura ring, which by the way, I keep on airplane mode during the day. So an Oura ring will track your steps. It will track your sleep. It will take your temperature at night. It'll show how much REM, how much deep. It'll show when you woke up, and it'll take your heart rate. So it'll grade you on your recovery and your sleep. So since I've been making these shifts myself, which is challenging, so I understand that it's a little different, but I want you to try it because there's a lot of benefits I'm experiencing already from it. And so I will say that I am eating within 2 hours of getting up personally. Okay. And what am I eating? I'm prioritizing protein. So what is protein? Protein is your best sources of protein are going to be animal-based proteins. So it's going to be chicken, meat, fish, and eggs. Okay. So when we're talking about meat, I'm talking about grass-fed meat is going to be your highest quality. When I'm talking about chicken, I'm going to talk about pastured organic chicken. When I'm talking about eggs, pastured is your best. And I know it's so confusing in the egg aisle. You see free range and organic and pastured. You're not really sure what to get. Pastured is your best bet. And then if you can go pastured organic, that's great. So prioritizing protein, naturally occurring fats, and then in some cases, you're going to add in some carbohydrates. Now, again, this is a bit more customized. I do like to give a little bit more customized recommendations after I do a hair tissue mineral analysis on people. When I know exactly what your personal goals are and what your activity level is. But I'm going to give you a very it's not a customized, but it's a very fair recommendation that if you start with this, I can guarantee you you're gonna do great and you can see how you feel. So let's say I'm gonna tell you what I ate this morning because I actually had pasture chicken. I actually put it in the oven when I woke up. I seasoned it. So listen, use seasonings, use flavors, don't be boring. And it can be very simple. Like I didn't do this gourmet recipe. I took the chicken breast out of the packaging that I bought it in. I I drizzled really high quality extra virgin olive oil. I added Celtic salt, and I was very generous with the Celtic salt. I added Italian seasonings. I added white pepper, and I had cut up fennel. I put it on a baking sheet, not an aluminum one. If you do have aluminum, put parchment paper under it because you don't want that aluminum getting in your food. Mine is actually a Pampered Chef clay one. It's like a stone or something. So I put it in the oven and like I ate not right after I woke up. So I made that. And guess what I did? I took my food scale out. Here's where the biggest problem is how much chicken should I eat? Well, I'm going to tell you that you're going to aim for a minimum of 25 grams of protein to start with your fast. You're breaking a fast. Breakfast is breaking your fast. I'm assuming you didn't eat all through the night, so you've been fasted. So now you're going to break your fast with your first meal, and that should include a minimum of 25 grams of protein. So let's give you a range of 25 grams to 50 grams. I know that's a pretty big range. But you'll understand in a minute, every ounce of meat, chicken, meat, fish, is approximately 7 grams of fat. So this makes it simple if you have a food scale. And again, we're not going to let perfect get in the way. Should you measure meat while it's raw or measure meat while it's cooked? Well, usually raw is the best way to do it because you're going to lose a little bit during the cooking process. But I didn't do that. So I just took my piece of chicken and I stuck it on my food scale. And it was just under 6 ounces. And let me tell you something. It was large. It was a big piece of chicken. And I thought to myself, most of my clients that are dieting, that are trying to lose weight, would have half of this because they would think that this is way too much chicken to eat. Okay. Well, let me tell you something. With having just under 6 ounces, I had about 40 grams of protein. Now, if I had half of it, I'm just making the mark with 20 grams of protein. I really want 25 grams. But when I ate, like, so really you can play around with that. You can really do 4 ounces to 6 ounces. And then, yes, I had some of the fennel and I had some radicchio lettuce and arugula lettuce. Oh, and I did have some carbs. So what I did was I had Japanese yams that I made last night. They were actually cooled, which makes it a resistant starch. We're not going to get into what resistant starch is now. I'm just going to tell you that the effect of carbohydrate is less than if you have a cooked carb. Okay. So if I had a warm potato. So that's what I ate this morning. Now, if we are more, sometimes it's easier or sometimes people feel better by just having that protein and some fat. So where was my fat coming from in this meal? Well, remember I told you I drizzled olive oil on each piece of chicken. There was also some coconut oil on my potato that I had cooked last night. So that's where I'm not adding much fat to that meal. I'm just like it's naturally occurring in what I cooked. Um, Now what if I was having eggs? So again, I'm eating within an hour and again, I'm not perfect either. I would say I eat within 2 hours of getting up. But what if I have a lot of clients that I'm like, what do you eat for breakfast? And they say 1 egg and a cup of strawberries. Well, what's the problem with that? It's not enough. It's not nearly enough. This is why you're hungry in 2 hours, okay? Because 1 egg contains 6 grams of protein. And you may think this information is very, very well known. If you have download an app like the Carb Manager or MyFitnessPal, or there's lots of apps out there where you can log your food. And usually when you look up the food, it's going to tell you forget the calories, but it's going to tell you the calories and it's going to tell you how many grams of carbohydrates, how many grams of protein, and how many grams of fat. So if I eat 1 egg and 1 cup of strawberries, well, I only ate 6 grams of protein. Is that enough protein? No. We need actually a minimum of 20 to 25 grams to actually initiate what we're looking to do, which is maintain our muscle mass and to um, optimize our fat loss. So it's not eating less, it's eating the right things in the proper amounts. We've been doing it for decades, especially if you're my age and you grew up in the 90s when, they just brainwashed you into calorie counting and fat makes you fat. And, it just is it's a model that doesn't work, and it causes you to do yo-yo dieting, and it causes you to feel hungry and unsatisfied. So let's start dialing in, and it may take time for your body to respond. So what am I going to tell you next? Well, how about if you're going to have eggs, you may need 4 eggs because there's only 6 grams of protein in each egg. So if I'm only eating eggs, and I give you another combination. I'm a big salad. I love salad. Not everybody does, but I do a lot of radicchio and arugula. So sometimes I just throw lettuce on my plate. Um, if you have like some avocado or tomatoes or whatever, sometimes I just use olive oil and not a lot, and goat cheese or just salt, and I might soft boil the eggs and I might put them on top of my salad. Sometimes I just make the eggs with like an omelet and just have that. So it again, it doesn't have to be difficult. Like you don't have to make a big meal. But I want you to think about that protein. And guess what? If I just had like 4 hard-boiled eggs and maybe I mash them up and I mash it up with a little avocado and just have an egg salad, well, I got the 24 grams of protein, and then I have also natural occurring fat in the egg, 7 grams for each egg. And then if I use a little bit of avocado, so you can see where this is going. That's going to be a more high protein and fat breakfast. Now, what if you eat that and you're just like, maybe you're somebody like when I do HTMA, hair tissue mineral analysis on people, and they have a very slow metabolism. I'm actually going to encourage them to have some carbohydrates in the form of maybe a cup of berries or some pomegranate or some leftover sweet potato from the night before, because we want to actually speed up the metabolism. So that's a little bit more customized, but let's go by how you feel. So now you woke up, you got a couple minutes. I don't care if it was 3 minutes of the sunrise light. And even if you're inside and you're doing your dishes and you can't get outside, open the window a little bit, you'll get those rays. I'm preparing what I'm going to eat. Now I go outside about an hour after sunrise and I go for a 20-minute walk, or I just go outside on the grass for a little bit and walk around the property with my cup of coffee. Um, and then I come back in, then I eat. Okay, now you're gonna start your day. Now you're optimized and you're ready to your mental clarity and your metabolism is optimal. So what if okay, so now breakfast, let's just say you ate at 9 a.m. Now, you can opt to do 2 meals. Let's say your metabolism is you're a lower body fat. You aren't looking to lose a lot of excess body fat, but you just want to maintain, and you want to prioritize nutrition. You may be metabolically healthy enough where you can just have 2 meals, where maybe you have that breakfast and then maybe you have a large lunch at 2, 3 o'clock, maybe a small snack before sunset, or when it gets dark, and then you're done eating after 5 o'clock. Now, right now in the Northeast, right, our darkness starts at around 5. We have more wiggle room in the summer. So again, it's your circadian rhythm. We're eating for where we live, we're eating for the sun natural rhythm. Okay. So we already went over the best sources of protein. Now, if I was going to eat, let's just say, for example, I had 40 grams of protein this morning. I might just have one more meal. And what I'm going to do is probably have 40 to 50 grams of protein in that meal so that I'm prioritizing my protein. I tend to eat about 2 meals a day. If I'm really hungry, maybe I'll have a snack, and the snack may look like Greek yogurt or um, uh, maybe it's just like rolled up leftover meat or like chicken breast from the night before. So again, it doesn't have to be complicated. So pastured eggs, pastured chicken, wild fish, grass-fed meats, those are your highest quality. And again, you're going to just do the best you can. We're aiming for a minimum of 65 grams of protein a day. That's for most people. I really don't know many people that are going to eat less. And listen, we are going to talk more down the road in conversation about intermittent fast, sorry, longer term fasting, like mimicking fasting. We'll do a mimicking fasting group challenge, whoever wants to get involved with that. But these are things that happen. This is where I might have 5 days where I'm actually not eating animal protein and I'm eating a lot less food in general because I'm tricking my body into fasting. Sometimes I'm upping my protein for like 3 days to just give myself a protein boost. So there's not like an every day has to look the same. What I'm trying to give you is some kind of template so that you can recover your metabolism and you can dial in the right habits. So when I say, recover metabolism is because a lot of people have broken metabolisms. They've spent years yo-yo dieting. They're always losing weight or they're off their diet and they're eating a bunch of cookies. And there's really a lot of that yo-yo dieting. You know what I'm talking about. It causes a lot of mental stress and physical stress, unpleasantness. You feel like you can't do anything. I really want to empower you to make this a lifestyle. And again, you're doing the best you can. So when I eat at home and I'm cooking my food, I really do use the best sources. But when I go out, which I do go out, I know that I'm not getting the best sources um, all the time, but I'm doing the best I can. And I'm still being prioritizing protein, let's say. Okay, so also we talked about using a food scale, so powerful, very cheap, order on Amazon, doesn't matter, just it's such a great tool in your kitchen to when you're preparing your lunches for work or when you're preparing your dinner. Just I just throw it on there. I put a parchment paper down. I put my meat on there and I'm just like just to remind myself what it kind of looks like, because the biggest problem is people are under eating protein. They're eating like 2 ounces, 3 ounces, and then they're starving and they're wondering why they're snacking. So that's the other thing. We don't want to graze through the day. So when we're recovering metabolism, getting back to the 2 meals, I think that three is, I usually tell people to have 3 meals because I feel like then you are just getting into a rhythm again and you're getting into a more, your body knows what to expect. You're not starving it, but we're not grazing all through the day. I've had clients say to me, Sheila, just tell me what snacks I can eat. And honestly, we don't really want to snack. And again, if you snack once in a while, it's okay. But usually on a typical day, we really don't want to do a lot of snacking. Eat enough at your meals so that you're satiated. And I'm telling you, if you eat 25 to 40 grams of protein per meal, you're going to feel full. You are not going to feel like you need to grab the chips. And then we talked about the food scale. So some other ideas for breakfast. So we talked about leftover meats like chicken. I actually made my grilled chicken this morning. So that's not usual. I don't do that all the time. I typically have eggs. But what are some things like people ask about shakes? And I do utilize shakes sometimes. So I recommend a high quality protein powder. So unfortunately, when we're dealing with powders of anything, greens, protein powders, we sometimes have heavy, if we don't know what brands we're dealing with or the quality, we can have like a lot of heavy metals in these products. I actually get a New Zealand whey protein from my favorite, my partner lab that compound supplements at. They have an extremely high quality, delicious tasting vanilla and chocolate New Zealand protein. What's special about the New Zealand whey protein is it's 100% grass fed, pastured animals. This has been tested, so there's no heavy metals. So that's what I get mine. So if you do look, you want to look on the label for grass-fed sources, pastured sources, organic. But let's say you want a protein smoothie, and that's always good. Like when the weather gets warmer, it might be more appealing. And I love to make smoothies like in the blender. I'll do water. You always want to have a fat, so I'll do, a full fat coconut milk maybe. And then I'm going to add my protein powder and maybe I add a cup of berries, frozen berries and ice. And my protein powder is providing me 25 grams of protein. But I mean, optimally, you're going to want to eat food. but that can absolutely be like a meal replacement. It can be a snack even if you are feeling hungry and I just make a straight up protein powder without protein shake. That can be a really good way to get more protein in. Um, Eggs and avocados, we talked about that, like actually mashing up some hard-boiled eggs and using avocado like as the mayonnaise, or getting a toast, but I don't really want you to think about toast because it's very high in carbohydrates, and a lot of times the clients I'm dealing with are interested in releasing body fat. So we don't want to bring in a lot of processed carbs, but there are some breads that are made such as oh geez, it's unbread, unbun. Unbun is a low carb, gluten free. It's actually really good toasted uh, option where if you want to have like avocado toast with your eggs. Um, and then also, and this is not by me, I just came across this product. Unfortunately, I don't think we can get it here in New Jersey. It's a product from Sprouts, a store called Sprouts. I don't know if we have any Sprouts in New Jersey. I don't think so, but it's called Roots. And they have sweet potato bread. And it's only two ingredients. It's organic. Apparently, it's delicious. So these are different options. Lunch protein, salads, vegetables. How about making soup? So you can make a, maybe you make a big pot on a Sunday of tomato soup or chicken broth. I do use bones from the butcher. I'll make a broth and then I have it as a base. Then you can actually make a chicken breast in there and put vegetables in there, make soup for breakfast, make soup for lunch. Um, just think in terms of whole food and minimally processed foods. So what if you're saying to yourself, this sounds great, Sheila. Number one, I don't wake up at sunrise. I sleep in a little bit. I have no time to make my own food. So therefore you maybe grab things on the go and you just can't even fathom what that looks like. Like you have no time as it is, never mind doing all this meal prep and cooking. So I have solutions and I've worked with my clients on what is uniquely challenging for them. And we come up with solutions together because sometimes we think about ideas or I bring up some things, options that you may not be thinking of, but I can tell you using meal prep services are fantastic. You just have to make sure that you're getting a service. You have to look at the ingredients on the food on the online if you go into their menu. It can, if you see vegetable oil or canola oil or soybean oil or grapeseed oil, corn oil, you cannot get those products. Say no. There's plenty of more conscious ingredient companies out there that are doing a good job with using better fats. Okay, so they're using things like organic olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil. So it depends on where you live. But there's some great meal prep services that will just deliver meals to your house. And this can be a fantastic option. I've worked with people like was completely a game changer. They were able to like look at the menu. The food was amazing. They felt less stressed. They knew what they were going to have for, lunch and dinner or breakfast and lunch or whatever it is. And they knew they were getting their protein in. And maybe all they had to do was maybe have some hard-boiled eggs on hand for snack or for, for something like for a quick breakfast. So anyway, that can be extremely beneficial. The other thing I bring up is sometimes we do have the time, but we're not allocating it for that. This is a priority. What you eat is a priority for your health if you want to be healthy. So if you don't want to pay somebody to do it and you want to do it yourself, just set aside that time. I like to make things in bulk. So maybe I'll make 6 pounds of chicken because I'm making it anyway. And maybe I'll grill it. Maybe I'll do what I did this morning and drizzle olive oil and put seasonings on it and put it in the oven with maybe some vegetables like fennel and sweet potatoes. And I'll bake that ahead of time. And now I have, remember I was talking about how many ounces, right? So if I'm going for like even 8 ounces, so let's just round it up. So for easy sake, so if I make 6 pounds and I'm eating, let's just say 8 ounces in 2 meals, right? So 8 ounces a day, then I have actually, oh gosh, now, so I don't have 6 meals, that's a pound each, but I have 12 meals for, my chicken. So if you're cooking for a family, so if you're making it for yourself, 3 pounds of chicken is going to be good for a few days. So you can see where this is going. If I make vegetables, sometimes I'll do a bunch of vegetables at a time and put them in the oven. And then I just, once they cool, I put them in a glass bowl, stick them in the fridge. Now I can just go to them as I need. Um, Again, the soup is a really big deal. If you have an Instapot or a crock pot, these are really great time savers and they can be cooking while you're at work all day. So when you come home, you have your meat and your vegetables and like a stew. So these are just different ideas. So cooking up batches of things can really be a time saver. And like, here's what happens, what I see, and this may resonate with you. Like you don't think about it, and then dinner time is there and you're hungry, and it's like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and you're like, what am I gonna make? And you're just overwhelmed. At this point, you didn't defrost anything, maybe you have nothing to cook. So what happens is we go to takeout. We're like, oh, let's just order pizza. Oh, let's just order Chinese. And this happens because we don't plan to fail, but we fail to plan. So that's a really big quote that I used to use all the time. I know you're not planning to fail, but planning, you're failing to plan. And that's what's going to happen. So think ahead. Again, the meal prep services for busy moms, busy work. If you have a very busy work schedule, these are great, great options. And there's some, really wonderful companies out there. And again, please pay attention to the ingredients. Go for those. There are some companies that do pastured and grass-fed and organic, and they don't use bad fats. That's really important. So again, don't let perfection get in the way of consistency. Do the best you can. If I couldn't get outside today for 20 minutes, if I was out there for 5, I did it anyway. I'm getting into a habit. This is how habits are developed. So again, as I shared, I'm shifting my fasting schedule. I used to eat later and it worked for me. So now this is like a little bit of a shift for me where it's like, oh, but it feels good. And on my sleep is actually measuring my sleep. It's showing that it's working better for my body. So just to recap, I want you to align your circadian rhythm. I know I sound like a broken record. You don't want to hear it anymore. Guys, I did not I loved being outside and I loved going for walks in the sun and I loved being at the beach, but I truly did not implement it as a habit in my life where I thought about the importance of getting out and getting out in the sun during certain times. It's a game changer. Once you know, you can't unsee it. You know it. You can't unknow it. It's like I'm telling you, this is a key not just for your metabolic system and not just for your fat loss, but for your overall health. If you have pain, if you have really circadian rhythm disruption where your sleep is really bad, I can help you with that with some protocols, but just being outside even more. Again, lose the sunglasses. Don't wear your prescription glasses outside when you're under the UVA rise and the sunrise. We want to actually be able to get that light into our brain. Prioritize protein, eating with the sun. So I hope I gave you some really good ideas for how much protein you should be eating. What are some ideas how to get that protein in? Breakfast can be tough because what do we think of when I say breakfast? We think of Special K, Raisin Bran, a corn muffin, um, protein pancakes, which don't have to be bad protein pancakes, but sometimes on the market they say protein pancakes. They're actually a lot of carbohydrates. We think of a Danish or, a loaf of bread, or a loaf of like pumpkin bread or something. Just move that thought process. Breakfast is breaking your fast, and we want to break our fast with protein and natural fats and maybe some natural whole food carbohydrates and make it taste delicious. So use those seasonings, use your salt. I love Celtic salt. I love Redmond's Real Salt. They're my favorite. Try it. Managing stress. So we can't have a healthy metabolic system and release excess body fat when we're not managing our stress. Exercise could be just walking. We don't have to be doing extreme exercise. And in some cases, that's actually contributing to hanging on to stored body fat. The reason being is that if your body is stressed from not sleeping well, from too much mental stress at work, too much emotional stress in your relationships. If you have this overload of stress and then you go do a very high intensity workout, you're only adding stress, even though it's considered a good stress. This is why a lot of women try fasting and they try exercise at higher intensities, but they have that really tough job, a lot of responsibility. They have a lot of responsibility at home. They're feeling really drained and they're thinking they're doing the right thing, but what's actually happening is they're storing, their body won't let go of that fat. In fact, you'll gain weight. So sometimes just movement, constant movement, get in those 10,000 steps a day and maybe, do like little breaks. If you're at your computer and you give yourself a 2-minute break, do some push-ups, do some jumping jacks, do some squats, air squats. But again, this is really important to get that movement in. Of course, balancing minerals. Mineral balancing is very connected to our stress, our metabolic function, because it is in our thyroid function and our adrenal. When we get a hair tissue mineral analysis, I can see what's going on with your thyroid function. Is it slow? Is it sluggish? Is it overactive? What's going on with your adrenals? What's the state of your stress? What does your body need? Does it need more carbs? Do you need to take certain supplements in order to bring the balance back? What kind of exercise should you be doing? So these are all things to think about, but start with what I said, the fundamentals. If you can't get up in the morning, listen, when you do get up, get outside. Again, don't let perfection get in the way of consistency. Do what you can, start small, build sustainable habits, and then you can add on from there. I so appreciate you joining for listening. I hope my desire is that you got something out of this. And again, that I instilled some curiosity in you to try these things and to just get started. And if you have any questions, please reach out and email me or go on to the links that I've sent you in the emails. And my website's going to be up very soon. Have a great day.